Welcome to Voice Rising with Johnstad. Enjoy weekly conversations with leading luminaries, pioneering visionaries, singers, poets, musicians, and sound healers as we explore the profound role our voice plays on the path to self-realization and global enlightenment. The internationally acclaimed singer, composer, author, healer, recording artist, voice expert, creator of Voice Your Essence, and founder of the School of Voice, Johnstad uses her extraordinary spiritual gifts to empower others. Everything in this world vibrates. Everything has a frequency. A pioneer in the field of voice work and transformational songwriting. Her breakthrough methods are helping thousands of people worldwide fine-tune their body-mind-spirit system and unlock the energetic frequencies of limitless creativity, health, and abundance. Share your voice, ask your questions, join in the conversation. Receive life-changing, positive transformation and rise together to create a sound world. And here's your host, Johnstad.
Hello, everybody. It's a pleasure to have all of you with us today on Voice Rising. We have a very special guest with us who brings a unique blend of wisdom and insight to our conversation. Join me in welcoming Christina Donnell, a renowned author, clinical psychologist, and a spiritual teacher. Her latest books, Encounters with Living Language, Surrendering to the Power of Words, explores the profound connection between language, mindfulness, and the transformative magic of words. Christina's work has touched the hearts and minds of many, and I am very excited to dive into a mindful and poetic exploration with her and know more about this incredible book that I've been lucky enough to have in my back pocket these last weeks. So welcome, Christina, to Voice Rising.
Thank you, Cara, and it's lovely to have a shared moment with you.
Yeah, right? It's so good
Yes.
to be here together. And, these interviews just show us again what you are sharing in your newest book is the power of word and the power of sound to connect. I think a lot of people are not even aware when they're in all these conversations that they are designing, manifesting, transforming, enlightening, and connecting in new ways, right? So we didn't know each other 5 minutes ago, and here we go.
Here we go.
Yeah, here we go. So, first of all, congratulations, Christina. How does it feel for you to have your new book in the hands of so many beautiful souls, and they're all sitting in different parts of the earth, reading and listening in and curious about where the journey of word and sound is taking them? What does it feel like for you?
Beautiful question. This book has, it's only when you look back that you can see all of the pieces of the puzzle that come together to know how something comes to fruition. And this book has been incubating since my last book, which was written in 2008. And it started with just an obsession with genius poets and how one line I could absorb and be transported by a line that would open my awareness. And that would be 2008. And then in 2012, I had a near-death experience in which I came back to the earth, but I absolutely heard, the sound underneath the sound when you're in that threshold of the in-between, multidimensional, of I am the living light behind the word, and you are to return and to be here to be a mouthpiece for the living word. And in 2012, Cara, I had no idea what that even meant. I didn't even know what it meant. And then it was shortly thereafter, I had 92 illuminations because I had a mystical temperament since birth. 92 illuminations between 2012 and 2015 that had this governing aim that absolutely showed me the evolution of language and that it can bring us to the eternal, to a place where the eternal is actually incarnating in time.
Yeah. I know this place well. I think many people don't realize that the vocal folds, when they're creating different sounds, and it's not only the vocal folds that are creating sounds, but it's the tip of the tongue and the back of the tongue. These are like gates that are opening and closing. And I think, and beautiful. It's, if we understand this, 01100101001, it's often this open, close, closed, open, open, closed. And then when we dive into sounds, we're literally experiencing programs, programming in the most bizarre way, because every word is comprised of various sounds that are then magically melded together. And it just takes me on, it just takes me when you talk about poetry. You mention also poets that have greatly inspired you. Like, for example, one of the poets lived down the road from me and walked on the same earth where I get to walk, who was Rainer Maria Rilke, because I'm sitting here in Berlin. How does, he was talking about one of his poems, the deep parts of my life pour onward as if the river shores were opening out, right? So his language was drawing us, right, into these, what is it, in another line, I feel closer to what language can't reach with my sense as with birds. I climb into the windy heaven out of the oak. They lift us.
Yes, I have full body chills. That's living language.
Yeah.
I have full body chills.
Yeah,
it
that's
goes
living
through
language.
my sensory system.
Yeah.
It goes all the way in and transports me into the boundlessness of which is what language can do, as we both know sound can do. For example, and simply, home.
Yeah.
Home.
Well, we say of sound mind and sound body, we say if something is in alignment, that it's sound. So somewhere intuitively we must know this. And we also know that the word voice and void is, it's lying next to each other.
Yes, right? They are. They're very, very close.
And you talk about that a lot in your book. And I would love to know your own experience, because you talk about these messages coming out of a deep place of silence. And yet when I read your words, which are very, very poetic and very, very prolific, it's a silence that is singing. It is a silence that is not void of vibration.
Yes, silence is the great instrument into which all choirs of life flow. Everything comes from the silence, everything returns to the silence. And if we can live in full presence and come back in every moment to the silence, these choirs of life flow. The unseen that is coming into the manifest world arises from the silence and returns to the silence. And when it returns to the silence and our awareness can follow it, it brings us into that participatory whole of connection to all of life. And when I say participatory, I'm saying not from the mind, from an experience of deeply connected to the whole. That's the gift of silence. It's the gift.
And if we play with sound a little bit, Christina, it's also kind of, I'm just in a good mood today,
This is
explore.
good. This is good.
To
I like it.
explore,
I like it.
to explore with you, because we talk about, because I love sound. You know, I'm a sound person, and so you just said the whole, and that's such a beautiful word. And for those of you out there, that's the WHOLE, whole as in wholeness. But isn't it fascinating? Isn't it fascinating that we are instruments, and our vocal folds are lying in the hole that is the entrance to the top of our core or our body, and we are created through the other hole. And I just find this this very amazing, because we have these holes, which we have an instrument creating sound, which is really lying and nestled above our heart, and is in a cavern. It's like in a cave. It is an entrance to our body. So I always love words like that: whole and voice and void, and
yes,
share.
And an entrance into our body, into a full sensory experience, and opening the trap doors within us.
Yeah.
To be transported to a place that our awareness has never been before, where our awareness can come into quote unquote the wholeness. And Cara, as we speak about sound and the voice, isn't it interesting that in listening to a piece of music, we can be completely transported, and at the same time, the ear is also our equilibrium here on Earth. It's fascinating to me that one of our sense organs can absolutely transport us into unity consciousness and the whole or other places multidimensionally, and at the same time is how we keep our balance here on Earth. Mm-hmm. It's a beautiful human design.
Yeah, and it's the you just said it, here on Earth.
Here on Earth.
Which is what we're doing.
Feet on the earth.
Hearing. Yeah, but when we're hearing, right, again, it's the sound of words. We're hearing with the ears, and we're here and now, right? So it's just a play that the word here and being here, and if we added T, then of course we have the word hearth, and if we move the H to the end, we have the word earth, and it's all coming from this rich sound. I have another interesting, just a curious question. I have all these questions that I prepared, but somehow now I'm in the mood to channel, and so there you go.
Let's channel.
When we arrive on Earth, many people always talk about the importance of breath, which is true, but I, as a singer, know that the first thing we do is we take a sucking inhale, and then we have this amazing cry. And we have a very strong voice and a very important voice. And the voice, not the silence, the voice is what allows us to survive and allows us to have people give us the attention and the love and the care that we need. But my question...
The voice is the manifestation into the world.
Yeah, but and then I asked you, I just asked you because I'm so curious, because for me, I realized at some point, wow, it's not only my voice, it's probably all the sound that I absorbed from my mother while she was giving birth. It's like it's a river of ancestral voices that continues to stream through each generation. Does that make sense?
You are connected to the whole. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So fabulous.
Yes. Yeah. Including, I have clients that I see the parents and then a couple of the siblings, and oh my goodness, the tonal inflection in the voice, I absolutely know they're related. They're from the same family, because the tonal inflection has this uncanny commonness.
Mm-hmm. Which is so beautiful, right? It's just so beautiful how we are created by sound. and connected by sound. Exactly.
Because the world is sound. Our bodies are vibrating as sound, as is every atom of our body vibrating as sound. And how do we be present and take in sound? How do we be present in our voice and reach to the place where we're more participatory with the larger continuum, and that can come through our voice? That is, to me, the awakening and the new human coming onto the planet. Of course, we know at a very tumultuous time, and yet we can have what is going on in the world that is vitriolic and us and them and hanging on by its fingernails. But this is coming in. This is being ushered in. And the tributaries are beginning to merge and come together, and they're coming to the ocean. And I deeply love witnessing it.
I think what a lot of people don't realize with all the division which is propagated out there is that the sacred vowels, it doesn't matter if we're speaking Arabic or Hindi or German or English, it's all the same in the way they are all the same sounds, whether you're saying t or s or these different sounds that make up words. Every culture has different belief systems and conditionings, but in the end, when you're doing an ah or when you're doing an a, whether you're Chinese or whether you're French, it is the same sacred vowel sound, which is connecting these different consonants and different sounds, right? And that's where we are unified. And then then we play with the word universe, right? Because verse is
right.
Back to word, right?
It's a verse. It's a multidimensional surround sound verse. Universe.
It's a universe, and we are unified in verse. Yeah, I think that is what are your thoughts at this time in these evolutionary times, basically, where people are bombarded by messaging and emails, and language is going extinct in many ways. We're just saying the tree and forgetting the word for birch or pine or cedar or, then we're using an emoji or something, or we're not even, maybe we'll be telepathic at some point because our messaging is getting so short, but we're losing the sense of the sacredness and the beauty of language in many ways. Many people are. What is your sense? What's the way out of it? What is the way for people to become conscious that when we speak, we can uplift and we can enlighten, or we can destroy with our words?
What I like about what you said before, that all of the vowel sounds, A, E, I, O, U, E, are universal. And if one were to be in stillness and silence and see where each one, as you held it out, reverberated inside of you, it would bring you to a new awareness. It would bring you out of the us and them, the me cosmology, and into, some call it non-dual awareness. I like to call it unity consciousness, where all of a sudden there's the beginning and the felt sense in the body of being connected to the larger continuum and the greater whole. I absolutely agree with you. We are a noisy culture. I'm speaking from the U.S. here in Berlin. Noisy. It's a soundbite culture. Language is in an evolution at the moment that appears to be degraded. Meaning, wow, people are publishing without a period, emojis are common. And I do wonder if down the line, 200-300 years, we might be what I would call a post-literate society, in that language itself will bring us to that unbounded whole, which opens up direct perception, telepathy, prophetic awareness, and I think we have evidence of that coming on the planet. With the indigo children, the spectrum children, the autistic children, who are all telepathic. Many nonverbal autistics speak 6 or 7 languages they've never been introduced to. It's because in their awareness, they're living in that multidimensional space. And so I do think it's this incredible, interesting time on the planet that we have a very old duality, us and them, weaponizing language, right? Weaponizing language that is holding on, but we have this new emergence that is just flowing in. Absolutely flowing in. And at what point is there the 100th monkey where it's easier for anyone in our everyday noisy world to have a moment and grasp that language is living, that sound transports consciousness to a greater awareness.
So funny when you said the word literacy. I for the first time I saw the word lit as in light.
Light.
Yeah. Yes. I should have seen that years ago, but I didn't. I heard it while you were saying you're in a post-literate society. I was like, wow, yeah.
Lit. Isn't it interesting?
It is so interesting,
Literate.
This thing with world and word and universe and verse and literacy and light and lit. And it's just, you see that I think that's what your book is so beautifully sharing. I mean, why I really enjoyed your book, obviously, because I love sound, I love poetry, I love living language, I love going deeper into meditation, and I, of course, love singing. I think what is so beautiful about your book is that you guide us into exactly that, having a love affair with tasting the words, tasting the sound, realizing that we can use language to transport us into other dimensions. And if we all slowed down and thought about it a little bit, we'd realize that every piece of music takes us, we're literally can listen to Beethoven and being transported back in time and propelled forward, right? Or we can take books and they can bring us into different timelines. So we know this amazing ability that language has to be multidimensional. And yet we seem to have taken it for granted in many ways. And so your book so beautifully and poetically, it's a very little book, and yet it's quite the gem of a book, because it is the essence of what language or sound is if we want to use it in an expansive way and at the same time in a focused way. Yeah.
Yes.
And I mean, that's for me what I really enjoyed, Christina, was this idea, or not even the idea, this truth, this living essence of you sharing your life story, to say language, if we dive deeper and if we start listening to sound and words and poetry, it can take us beyond the mundane, and the ordinary becomes extraordinary.
Yes, including in a simple dialogue with a beloved, where we don't go to the old, language has been used to represent and symbolize for centuries, but it's in its own evolution. And, I believe I say in the book, have we failed language? Because language absolutely has so much more to offer. And if you sit with a beloved and you don't immediately move to conceptualizing, to thinking you've heard this before, the judgment of putting it in a space, and you just listen and allow those words, the strengthen the fibers of those words to unfold and to reach you in your presence and in your body, you will have a different experience with your beloved. You will hear something you've never heard before. And the reason you will hear it is because the word is connected to the whole.
Yeah.
The whole of all of life. It's the silence behind it, the sound under the sound, the experience of it that brings you to these, what do we call them? Archetypal forces, inciting, unseen forces that the word is vibrating. And when we allow it to enter, we have an experience with that which transports the consciousness.
Beautiful. We are going to take a small break for our sponsors. And in that moment, and yeah, while we're doing that, make yourself a tea, everybody out there, and really just savor these words from Christina. And then we're going to be back in just 1 or 2 moments and talk more about her new book.
Conscious media for conscious minds. Om Times.
Ascending Hearts is no ordinary dating site, but a spiritual dating site with a purpose, to link you with your soulmate. We engineer the serendipity so you can trust that you will attune with someone that has the same matching vibration as you. Ascending Hearts, the conscious dating site for the spiritually aware. Try Ascending Hearts for free, ascendinghearts.com.
With happy clients all over the world, Kara Johnstad knows that your voice is the missing link to more authenticity, abundance, creativity, and health. An internationally acclaimed voice expert, Kara's breakthrough methods have helped thousands of people successfully heal their voice wounds and extinguish the story of self-doubt and shyness forever. Join in group trainings, attend online sessions, schedule one-on-one time, and invite Kara to work with your organization and community. Get started today. Go to www.karajohnstad.com and receive a special guided meditation designed to fine-tune your inner voice and welcome you on the voice journey.
This is Kathy Beal, host of Celestial Compass, featuring astrology you can use. Celestial Compass points you to what's going on in the sky and what you can do with it down here on Earth. We also explore fun, effective, and cosmic tools for navigating this adventure we call life. Join me the first and third Monday of the month at 5 p.m. Eastern Time for Celestial Compass. It's enlightening, entertaining, and empowering.
Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of Om Times Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of Om Times. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
You came across someone struggling with hunger. How would you recognize them? Would you notice an 8-year-old girl who's not excited for summer break
because she may not be having lunch again until September?
Or a war veteran who's having a hard time landing a job
and getting back on his feet?
I am the 1 in 8 Americans who struggle with hunger. I am hunger in America.
Hunger can be hard to recognize. Learn why at IamHungerInAmerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to Voice Rising. We hope that you enjoyed that short break. Today we're in the company of the remarkable Christina Donnell, and we are continuing our exploration of the profound power of living language. So before we dive back into this beautiful conversation with Christina, just a quick reminder to you, our beautiful listeners, if you're enjoying today's show, please consider subscribing to our podcast on your favorite streaming platform and leaving a review or comment, because your support helps us bring you more enlightening conversations, just like Miss Christina Donnell. So welcome back, Christina. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you, Karen.
Yeah, so there's so many places to go, and yet here we are talking about the beauty of language and your new book, which is called Encounters with Living Language. Maybe you want to explain or share with the listeners a little bit more about what is living language for you. What is the definition? What makes it different from just talking?
You know, living language for me, and I think for all listeners out there, you know when you've had an experience with living language, because it's whether it's written or spoken word, when the hair goes up on your neck, when you read a great poetry line and you just feel swayed, or when you get full body chills with reading the written or spoken word, that to me is living language. It means it's no longer inert like a fossil. It unexpectedly lights up and brings new awareness inside the sensory system of the body. That, to me, is what living language is. I could say it in another way. It's when the conceptual mind receives, and when the sound of language, the experience of language itself, can move further into the sensory system, where you can taste the language, you can feel the language.
Yeah, I mean...
It brings new awareness. It
brings
opens
new
new
awareness.
perception. It brings direct perception. It brings prophetic and telepathic awareness. That is the extraordinary gift of sound, and language comes from sound. And remember, in the beginning was the word. In the beginning was the silence. In the beginning was the silence. And then explosion, and then planets. The word, the manifestation. And language is the word. It is a derivative of the word. But I think because we've, for so many centuries, just used it to represent and to say this means this, we really have failed language.
Well, I feel like when there's living language about or in the room, it feels like time just stops. You know, you're so touched by what is transpiring. Like you said, you know, there's just, the hair on your arm goes up, or you suddenly feel there are connections or synchronicities or that were not there before. And it's something it is very sacred. It's very precious. Whether it's with your beloved or whether it's with a stranger on a train, and suddenly you find yourself immersed in a really profound, beautiful, philosophical conversation while eating a cheese sandwich, and you're like, that shifted me. Yeah.
Yes. And living language, as the conceptual mind receives, and we're no longer rationalizing or, diagnosing or putting it in some cognitive space where it just simply penetrates further and further. Cara, you're right. Linear time falls away, and past, present, and future come into the same moment. And I talk about that in the book, that extraordinary place where language can actually bring you to out of linear time while still being in time. And that, 30 years of meditation often don't get people to that place.
Well, I think that was why I was curious at the beginning of the show, talking about silence and sound, because from my experience as someone who opens a lot of voices, people that have not found their sound, if they go into silence, they often get stuck. If they go into meditation without having the ability to be at home in a vibratory, rich sound field, they can get very stuck in meditation. They become a little bit too hard and too harsh. Whereas people that have found more expression in their voice seem to really, be nourished by more and more what we would call silent spaces or still points or quietude. It's as if that becomes like a deep well for the wellness, right? Whereas if people just say, I need to be silent, or like what, stop talking, we need to be quiet, we need to be silent, they feel stifled, they feel stuck. And so there's a quality to the silence that you explore in your book, I think, that is vibratory.
Vibratory, and as you said at the very beginning of the show, that silence is not a closed determinate place. The silence is this incredible open vibratory place where the invisible is allowed to come through and to be experienced, as well as for those of us who speak from a deep place of silence, can take others into that unseen, silent, spacious place where the forces come into the room. They are like baptismal waters in the room. When I'm sitting as a clinical psychologist with clients, when they are speaking and I'm not in my conceptual mind and I'm allowing their words to go and return to the silence, it brings the unseen, inciting archetypal forces underneath their language right into the room. I don't have to do a thing because they're so palpable that the client can actually experience that. That's the power of the word. And that's the power of their word with somebody who's simply present enough not to only conceptualize or rationalize the exchange.
It's also the power of someone who is skilled is a little bit too conceptualized in this moment, but in deep listening, because the words then can arrive into the body. We could even say the body of water, because you're 80% water. The words can arrive and find a home because you've listened. I've experienced that so often, that when people are really listened to without judgment, like we say unconditional love, but let's say unconditional listening, right? So suddenly they are able to share and you talk about this in the book, dormant places are awakened. They're able to share things that might have been forgotten or, again, trapped or stuffed down, and suddenly they're free. They're free. They're free. Yeah, they're liberated.
Because of course, we live in a soundbite, noisy culture that only sees the manifestation and the visible as important. But all of us must never forget, it is the invisible and the unseen that is supporting, that allows the manifestation to arise. And the more we can sit in that place, it has its own surround sound, and it builds and it impacts others. This is why I can say thank you at a really superficial level, but I can reach so much deeper into my sensory experience that is connected to the whole and say thank you. And it will be received differently because it's connected to the unseen underneath. And people will feel that in an exchange if one is present at that level.
And isn't it or talk about the practice. I mean, you have a mindfulness practice. You obviously have been exploring and writing poetry. You have a writing practice. How can we begin or embark on the journey of finding that place of presence while we're speaking, perhaps to a stranger or to our beloved? I always say intimacy also has to do with being in time with someone in the same time. It's like the intimacy. It's like how can we slow ourselves down, right? To be with that person present with what is. What are some of the first steps that people can start taking?
Yes, the $1 million question, right?
How $1 million question, yeah.
How do we go from doing to being, because in the place of being, whether it's meditation or whether it's any other spiritual practice, of simply being present and being, this is the place where one can play with having an experience with the word, not conceptualizing the word, but have an experience with the word. Allow the word to usher in and take, how do we have an experience with anything, right? With a beloved, with God, with the Word. It has to overtake us. It has to move beyond the conceptual mind and open the heart and into the sensory system and to play there in the beingness of it. Because most people will say, well, I don't know how the word could ever take me there. And, well, I just wrote a book that said, wow, I had 92 illuminations that absolutely took me there and changed my life. Absolutely changed my life.
Funny, 92, that's a master number, right? It's 11.
Is it? Yeah. Is it? Yeah. 92.
9 plus 2 is 11, right? So it's
yes.
Kind of funny.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, just by the way, like sometimes there are sometimes there are synchronicities, but sometimes it is fun to play. It is just fun to play. And
well, there's so many harmonics from the source of creation that just play through us. But because we're so busy doing, we don't recognize the extraordinary unfolding that is coming from source and from the cosmos, which includes our quantum nature. And this book talks about that too, that it awakens our quantum nature. Because when the word, with all of its 1,000 roots, goes back in it loses its struts and fibers, goes into the silence, it then moves and is entangled in the larger continuum, and you can feel it, the felt sense of it in your body, and you can have the experience of being connected to the whole. That these harmonics are just, how do I say it? They are embedded in the source of creation. They are embedded. They are a power source that is embedded. It's how do we return there and get out of this noisy, superficial consciousness?
Yes, we shift into the harmonics and leave harm behind us. We know from voice work that in every vowel, right, there are all these overtones and undertones, and they're perfectly aligned. Too complex for the show, but with the octaves and the fifths and the thirds. And what I find always fascinating is that every single person has the same structure of these harmonics. So we are all little walking symphonies while we speak, because the harmonics are unfolding all the time. If we slow down the shape of the vowels, they start hitting in these perfect fifths and perfect octaves, and that is a fascinating thing. It's just stare at Central Station and realizing that in every person having a conversation, they are releasing harmonics that are in alignment with the universe. I mean,
right. All is God. All is perfectly unfolding, even though we may have a lot of opinions about it. And, Clark, what you said so beautifully, I love it, that every person is you didn't say universal song, you said universal symphony. And the vowels, A, E, I, O, U, I don't recall so it's like an astrophysicist or astronomer who said the vowels are absolutely in vibratory harmony and alignment with the planet. So
I think it might have been Pythagoras. Was it Pythagoras?
No, it was some Kepler. I think it was Kepler.
Oh, Kepler. Okay.
But yeah, like A is for Mercury. It's like, but you see, the world is sound, and it's so exquisitely orchestrated. It's so exquisitely orchestrated. And if we could just come home that we are sound, that our whole being is sound, I believe it allows us to move out of duality and into a unity consciousness where you really are in the felt sense of participating in the whole of everything around you, and you're connected to it, and it comes through direct perception. It does not come through the mind.
I always feel as a singer that when I am in this state of being, that I'm absolutely protected. People ask me, why don't you have stage fright or whatever, but it's as if you understand the fullness of sound, it's a protective force. It's a really protective force. And interestingly enough, in your book, but with all the people that I have interviewed, always in these moments, these near-death experiences or these illuminations, it's always a voice that speaks. It fascinates me.
Right.
Somebody
sound.
it's always a voice
sound
that they hear, or a message that is received, or a voice that speaks, and whether they call it angel or whether they call it my inner guide, or it fascinates me because we all talk about the heart field, or many people talk about heart-brain coherence, and I'm always like, yes, but the voice is nestled in between the two, and it is the connecting force to ourselves and to every single living thing. Everything
And
that is alive has a voice. The wind, the ocean. Right?
Yes, everything that is here in the manifestation is a part of the world of sound. And whether it is our voice or we have the experience, might call it the sound underneath the sound, of the voice of the wind, the breath of the earth, the blade of grass that is singing, that transporting the consciousness arrives from that experience. And so I absolutely agree with you. It doesn't come from sight. Sight conceptualizes. It's with the old language. It bifurcates. It sees an object. It shuts down the surround sound and the experience that is underneath, which allows us to be one with something.
Yeah. So beautiful, Christina. I can talk all day with you, and I hope our listeners are getting a little taste of the beauty and the poetry of what a conversation can basically bring into our lives, and we have them every day, and so we can choose to make them connected and special, or we can choose just to rush through it all, right? But I think your book, your beautiful book, that I very much recommend to everybody out there, brings us closer to really cherishing this gift that we've been given from the first second that we arrived on Earth, which is a voice. Voice. Right? And
yes.
And that voice will carry us far. What do you think? My very last $1 million question for you. Yeah, you have so many insights and experiences that you shared in your book, and you talk about this metamorphosis that the world is going through. How can your book benefit humanity as a whole in these challenging times?
Wow, that's a loaded question, right?
That's loaded, and you have like 60 seconds to
well,
do a haiku.
That's even more loaded.
You can go into silence if you want.
Mm-hmm. I might say something like this. Consciousness is not something we do. It is what we are. It is what we are.
Yeah.
And we have to refine our inner sanctuary. And if we can refine that inner sanctuary, we will discover life itself is a great song. It's a great song. It is a song.
Beautifully said, Christina. I think those are the words. Life itself is a song. I thank you so much for joining me today. I am very grateful that you're doing the work that you're doing. It's such important work for our world. And I'm also very thankful to our listeners out there. You are actually the last show of 2023, so it's really precious to the title of our show is always Creating a Sound World. So how appropriate that you close this incredible year with sound advice and beauty and and everything that you are. I wish you much success. And for everybody else, we're back in 2024. But until then, on your Christmas list, go get the book, Encounters with Living Language, Surrendering to the Power of Words by Christina Donnell. And leave her also comments and support her work for our Earth. Bye-bye.